The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm inside me. Alaric, a 44-year-old IT specialist in Seattle, had always considered myself a logical man, a man of systems and order. My life with Genevieve, or so I thought, was one such system: predictable, reliable, and comforting. We'd been married for 15 years, a seemingly happy couple, or at least that's what I believed. How wrong I was. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Genevieve, a vibrant artist, began spending more time at her studio, a converted garage in our backyard. Initially, I was supportive, encouraging her creativity. "You need your space, darling," I'd said, genuinely believing it. But then the late nights started, the hushed phone calls, the way she'd flinch when I touched her unexpectedly. I began to notice a change in her scent, a floral perfume I hadn't bought her, mingling with the familiar scent of turpentine and oil paints. My gut churned with a feeling I hadn't experienced since my college days, a gnawing, sickening anxiety. I tried to dismiss it. "She's just stressed," I told myself. Art can be demanding. But the anxiety persisted, a constant hum beneath the surface of my seemingly normal life. One evening, I decided to surprise her at the studio. I brought her a thermos of her favorite chamomile tea and a box of artisanal chocolates. As I approached the garage, I heard voices, Genevieve's and another, a man's, deeper and unfamiliar. I paused, my hand hovering over the doorknob. Their words were indistinct, muffled by the thick wooden door, but the tone, the intimacy, it sent a shiver down my spine. I pushed the door open. The scene that greeted me was like a punch to the solar plexus. Genevieve was standing close to a man I'd never seen before, a muscular, ruggedly handsome figure with paint-stained hands and a cocky smirk. Had his hand on the small of her back, and they were both laughing. It wasn't just the physical proximity, it was the look in their eyes, the easy familiarity, the shared joke that excluded me. "Alaric," Genevieve gasped, her face paling. "What are you doing here?" "I thought I'd surprise you," I said, my voice strained, barely a whisper. The man, whose name I later learned was Blaize, simply stared at me, his smirk widening. "Well, well," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Looks like we have company." The air crackled with tension, thick and suffocating. I felt my world tilting on its axis, the solid ground beneath my feet dissolving into quicksand. "Who is this Genevieve?" I asked, my voice trembling. She hesitated, her eyes darting between me and Blaize. This is Blaize. He's helping me with a project." "Helping you?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Helping you like he's helping you right now." Silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the rhythmic drumming of the rain against the garage roof. Genevieve finally broke the silence, her voice barely audible. "Alaric, it's not what you think." "Oh, really?" I said, my voice laced with sarcasm. "Because it looks an awful lot like my wife is having an affair with some artist." Blaize stepped forward, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Look, pal," he said, "no need to get your panties in a twist. Genevieve and I are just friends." "Friends?" I roared, my anger finally erupting. "Is that what you call it? Friends who stand this close, friends who share private jokes, friends who—" I couldn't finish the sentence. The pain was too intense, too raw. I turned to Genevieve, my eyes pleading for an explanation, for some sign that this was all a terrible misunderstanding. But her eyes were averted, her face etched with guilt. In that moment I knew. The truth, stark and undeniable, slammed into me like a tidal wave. My wife was cheating on me. The woman I had loved, trusted, and dedicated my life to had betrayed me in the most profound way imaginable. The next few days were a blur. I moved out of our house, unable to bear the thought of sleeping in the same bed, breathing the same air as her. I stayed at a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city, the anonymity a strange comfort. I barely ate, barely slept. My mind reeled, replaying the scene in the studio, the look on Genevieve's face, Blaize's smug grin. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, a never-ending loop of pain and betrayal. I confided in my best friend, Caius, a pragmatic lawyer who had always been my voice of reason. He listened patiently as I poured out my heart, my anger, my grief. When I was finished, he simply said, "Alaric, you need to protect yourself. Get a lawyer, file for divorce, and don't let her take you for everything you've got." His words, though harsh, were a wake-up call. I knew he was right. I couldn't let Genevieve and Blaize destroy me. I had to fight back. I hired Caius's firm, and they immediately began gathering evidence. It wasn't difficult. Genevieve and Blaize were brazen, flaunting their affair in public, oblivious to the damage they were causing. Caius discovered that Genevieve had been secretly transferring money from our joint account to a separate account in her name. She was planning to leave me, to start a new life with Blaize, and she was taking my money with her. The betrayal cut even deeper than the affair. It wasn't just about sex. It was about greed, about deception, about a complete lack of respect for me and our marriage. I decided I wouldn't let her get away with it. I wouldn't let her steal my future. I wanted justice, but more than that, I wanted revenge. I wanted Genevieve and Blaize to suffer, to feel the pain they had inflicted on me. I started meticulously documenting everything, every lie, every deceit, every financial irregularity. I spent hours poring over bank statements, emails, and text messages, building a case that would expose their treachery. I also started to change. The gentle, unassuming Alaric began to harden, to develop a steely resolve. I became focused, driven, and determined to reclaim my life. Caius, seeing the change in me, cautioned, "Don't let this consume you, Alaric. Don't let revenge become your sole purpose." I nodded, but inside I knew he was wrong. Revenge was exactly what I needed. It was the fuel that kept me going, the light at the end of the tunnel. The divorce proceedings were long and bitter. Genevieve, represented by a high-powered attorney, fought fiercely to protect her assets. She claimed that I was emotionally abusive, that I had neglected her, that the affair was a result of my own failings. Her lies were outrageous, but her attorney was skilled, twisting my words, misrepresenting my actions, painting me as the villain. I sat in the courtroom, listening to her accusations, my anger simmering beneath the surface. I wanted to scream, to expose her lies, but Caius advised me to remain calm, to let the evidence speak for itself. And it did. Caius presented a mountain of evidence, proving Genevieve's affair, her financial manipulations, and her attempts to deceive the court. The judge, clearly disgusted by her behavior, ruled in my favor. Genevieve was ordered to return the stolen funds, and I was awarded a significant portion of our assets. But that wasn't enough. I wanted more than just financial compensation. I wanted to expose Genevieve and Blaize for who they really were. I knew that Blaize was heavily dependent on grants and commissions to support his art. I anonymously contacted several art galleries and funding organizations, providing them with evidence of Blaize's affair with a married woman and his involvement in Genevieve's financial schemes. The response was swift and decisive. Blaize's grants were revoked, his commissions were canceled, and his reputation in the art world was tarnished. He was ostracized, shunned by his peers, and left struggling to make ends meet. Genevieve, too, faced the consequences of her actions. Her friends and family, disgusted by her betrayal, distanced themselves from her. She lost her social circle, her reputation, and her sense of self-worth. She was left alone, isolated, and consumed by regret. I watched from afar, a grim satisfaction creeping into my heart. They had destroyed my life, and now they were paying the price. But as I savored my revenge, a strange emptiness began to gnaw at me. I had achieved my goal, but the victory felt hollow. The pain of betrayal still lingered, a dull ache that wouldn't go away. I realized that revenge, while satisfying in the short term, couldn't truly heal the wounds of the past. I needed to move on, to rebuild my life, to find happiness again. I started by focusing on myself. I took up hiking, exploring the beautiful trails around Seattle. I reconnected with old friends, spending time laughing and reminiscing. I even started taking art classes, exploring my own creative side. Slowly but surely, I began to heal. The pain of betrayal faded, replaced by a sense of hope and resilience. I realized that I was stronger than I thought, that I could survive anything, even the devastating betrayal of my wife. One day, I received a call from Genevieve. Her voice was weak, filled with remorse. She apologized for her actions, admitting that she had made a terrible mistake. She said that Blaize had left her, that she was alone and miserable. I listened in silence, my heart strangely unmoved. I had no sympathy for her. She had made her choices, and now she had to live with the consequences. I simply said, "I hope you find peace, Genevieve," and hung up the phone. I never heard from her again. I eventually met someone new, a kind and compassionate woman named Bronte. She was everything Genevieve wasn't: honest, loyal, and supportive. We built a life together, filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. I learned to trust again, to open my heart without fear of betrayal. Looking back on that dark chapter of my life, I realized that the experience had changed me, made me stronger, more resilient, and more appreciative of the good things in my life. I had survived betrayal, and in the process I had discovered my own inner strength. The rain still falls in Seattle, but now it no longer mirrors the storm inside me. The sun has finally broken through the clouds, and I am ready to embrace the future with all its possibilities and uncertainties. My story, while painful, is a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure, to heal, and to find happiness again, even after the most devastating betrayal.